Hello and welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about sneaky gaslighting. Do you know what that is? Do you have an idea what that might be? I'll tell you one thing for sure, it's horrible, it's difficult, it's awful. And I'd love to have you tell me you're here. Say hello in the chat and let me know that you're here with me tonight. We're going to talk about this horrible thing, this sneaky gaslighting. We're going to talk about gaslighting in general, once I've told you about the really sneaky part. And I hope you'll ask your questions. You may have a situation in which you think you're being gaslit, and you might want to check for sure. So be sure to put that in. Hello, Marianne. Hi, Anna. Thanks for checking in. It's good to know you're here. Hi, Paul. Yes, these are important things to know about. So I'm glad that you care enough to learn more about it so you can become an expert at figuring these things out when they're happening to you. And you might not figure it out the very first moment, but you'll get better and better at it. And then the red flags will fly with a little more certainty and a little more frequency and a little sooner, so that you won't have to wonder, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what that is for sure. So I'm delighted that we have new people here tonight. And that's always great for me, because that means that at least I'm reached more people to tell them and remind them to come along. Be sure to subscribe to this and then hit the little bell, and that will send you a notification, because we have a live stream every Monday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Always on a different topic, and you're always welcome to join in, ask your questions. Ask your questions about the topic, but ask your questions about anything that's on your mind once we've developed the topic. So it's available to you. And if you need more, you want more, of course, there's lots for you here on the YouTube channel. But I also have 2 podcasts. So you might want to know just about hijackals, those chronically difficult people. And my podcast, Save Your Sanity, will help you with that. It's all about toxic relationships. So go and find my podcast wherever you like to download your podcasts, whether that's iTunes or Podcaster or Stitcher or TuneIn or whatever. You can find them. Good evening, Mama Girl. I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad that people are checking in. So Save Your Sanity is my podcast that is really limited to toxic relationships. And my other podcast is more general. It's called Emotional Savvy, the Relationship Help Show. And so you can also get that anywhere you like to get your podcasts. And subscribe when you're there. That way you'll hear when there is something new for you. And of course, you can always go to my website, forrelationshiphelp.com, FOR relationshiphelp.com. So I'm glad you're all here, and I want to jump in because I'm one of those people that thinks if you made it here on time, then I should honor that and respect the fact that you're here ready to hear about this topic. So why did I call it sneaky gaslighting, as if all gaslighting isn't sneaky? Well, I'll tell you. Because recently I was just thinking about a situation in which that really occurred. And what it was there was a person with definitely seeming hijackal tendencies. I don't know the person very well, but seemed to have some hijackal tendencies. And what this person did was they took my videos and then they talked to their partner and said, there, see, that's all about you, and used my videos to gaslight them that I was talking about the partner, not talking about the person who presented the video. And so the person kept saying, oh, but Dr. Shaler said this, oh, but, and that means that you're doing it. And so it was so sneaky, and I'll talk more about that. So what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is when someone else tries to define your reality. They tell you what you think, what you feel, what you need, what you want, how it was. And no matter what you say, they say you're wrong. No, you said this. And, just like in that example of the sneaky gaslighting that I was just saying, here's this person using my very words to convince their partner because they know their partner has been listening to me. So they start using my words against their partner to prove their partner has a problem when in fact they have their partner. It's a little bit like the Bible, the devil quoting the Bible. It's a very difficult and dangerous thing. So the hijackal is quoting me to create ambiguity in their partner and get their partner upset and second guessing themselves and questioning their sanity. Oh, very, very, very nasty. And they really, in that case, had their partner on the run for a while until the partner checked in with me. So when someone else tries to define your reality and tell you what's really going on, what's really up, and it's not the way you remembered it at all. It's not what you're thinking. It's not how you remember saying it. It's not the intention of what you said. It's been twisted and turned and then said to you as though it is the ultimate final word and the absolute truth. And it causes you to go into question. That's gaslighting. And there are many kinds of it. One of them is, of course, people just blatantly lie, right? They just tell lies, like, you're wrong. No, I never said that. They'll deny that they ever said anything. And you know they said it. You can have them on tape. You can have them, well, I guess that shows my age, have them on tape. You can record them. And you can play it back to them, and they'll say they never said it. I saw a politician recently who was confronted with, you said this yesterday. And the politician said, no, I didn't. So the interviewer played the tape of him saying that. And then he said, he didn't agree to it, right? What did he do? He said, oh, you people in the news are always out to get me. Right? Didn't take responsibility at all for having said what he said. And he didn't want that to be the truth, so he made up another truth, and then he twisted it to say, oh no, it's you media people are always out to get me. Gaslighting. Deny, lie. Anybody have any experience with that? Have you ever been with somebody? Just put a big yes in the chat if you have. Have you had someone who wants to define your reality and tell you who you are and what you said and what you did or didn't do, even though you know it's the opposite? And you do know what you did and said, and you are quite aware of what you did and said, and then it kind of made your head spin? Mama Girl says, yes. Okay. Well, I certainly have. I mean, I was raised by 2 hijackals, so I understand that. And of course, I went on and married one, divorced one. So I know all about this stuff. It's not easy because when you're raised in that environment, it's what you got used to. And it's what you think reality is. And then you have to unpack all of that. Not easy. Definitely isn't easy. So what else do gaslighters do? Well, they like to use what you love against you. So if you really love your job, they will tell you all kinds of problems with the job, why you shouldn't love that job, what's wrong with you for loving that job, all the downsides of that job. Then they'll tell you that the people there don't really value you. They will do anything at all to blow up your sense of what's real. And they will get that way. Anna says, yes, a few times. Okay. So these things happen. They happen frequently. And as we're developing this topic tonight, it may begin to open your mind to a few things that have happened to you, a few people in your life who have done this. In the beginning, it's kind of subtle. It kind of suggests that, oh, well, you were under stress, so you don't really remember how it was. And the actual fact is they're gaslighting you, but they're trying to soften the blow that you don't remember very well. You were upset. You were crying. It was a difficult time for you. So I have it right and you have it wrong, even though it's your reality. It's what really happened to you. So very, very confusing. But they'll use what you love against them. And, sometimes people will even tell you that when you're having difficulty with your children, a hijackal will tell you, well, I told you you shouldn't have had children. My mom was like that. She didn't want children. Okay, you got that one right. It was my mother, and she clearly told me she never wanted children. I mean, that's lovely to hear. There's a very good reason I'm an only child, obviously, right? But when I had children, when I had my first child, it was kind of okay. She wasn't very happy because it's very long ago, and I had a child before I was married, back in the day when you weren't supposed to do that because you weren't supposed to know about sex, let alone have it. And so she was very embarrassed and found it very difficult, and she rejected me right up until the minute that the baby was a reality. And then all of a sudden, because she wanted to look good to her community and her church, she all of a sudden decided that she would be a grandmother. But I had 3 children, and she never understood that, because why would you want more than 2 if you had one of each sex? And then she would say if I had difficulty with the children, and of course, having had a hijackal parent, I ended up on my own with the kids. And so if I had any difficulty or ever complained about it, she said, I told you not to have children, right? Gaslighting. Like, you should never have had children. That's a problem for you. So what's another thing that they do? Well, they like to just tear you down to the place where you just don't even know how to manage in your life at all. That they just keep ripping down your self-esteem and turning things so that you don't know where to turn. You can't figure out what's up, what's real. And they kind of wear and erode at your sense of self. And they love to talk. Gaslighters love to talk. And they like to fill up the air. So it's important to look at what they're really saying and to catch up with that. And of course, they love to flatter you. They really love to flatter you. So they build you up so that they can tear you down. And they'll build you up and they'll tear you down, and they'll build you up and they'll tear you down. And you don't really know which way is up after a while. Does that ring a bell at all? Oh, hi, Purple Belt. Sadly, my friend told her hijackal after 2 years of begging to fix their marriage, she's going to divorce him, and he tells her so much for counseling. Right. And how selfish she is. And what about the kids? And this has caused him to yell at the kids. Oh, of course, it's her fault that he's yelling at the kids. Isn't she powerful? Yeah, well, here you have exactly this thing. After 2 years of begging to fix the marriage, she's going to divorce him. And he now, if I'm reading you correctly, Purple Belt, now says, well, so much for counseling. I thought you wanted it. But up until the moment that she said she was leaving him and asking for counseling, he wouldn't go. But then when it came time for her to leave him, then he says, well, so much for counseling. She's the selfish one, right? Right. Not at all. Perfect examples. Perfect examples. So feel free now to put anything you like in the chat, and we'll talk about it, or examples that you might have, or questions you might have about it. Because, wow, so many examples, so much going on. And just to talk a little more about what Purple Belt said, when somebody is in a bad relationship, a relationship with somebody that maybe you can identify now as hijackals. Maybe you got my free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. If you didn't get it, you're welcome to get it. Just go to hijackals.com and you spell that hijack, Hijackals.com. And maybe you understand that you're with this difficult person. And then you say, well, we need to get some help. And a hijackal will say, no, we don't need any help, because the hijackal is perfect, right? The hijackal is flawless. Why would they need help? So they don't want to go. But that's not really why they don't want to go. They don't want to go because they don't want to be seen. But then there's the other side of the hijackal who says, yes, let's go to counseling, because they are so sure that they can manipulate the counselor that they're happy to go, because then if they can manipulate the counselor, then they can get the counselor on their side, and then the hijackal and the counselor can then make the partner wrong. And this happens way too often. I've had so many clients who have told me that that happened, tried 2 or 3 different counselors, and it happened. And it's not because the counselors are not good at what they do. They just don't see this often enough. They don't understand this. They've never had it in their life, and they don't see it. And so they think they're doing the right thing. So make sure, if you're going for help, that you go to someone like me who has the ability and the expertise and the experience to actually help you, because you don't want to be rewounded when you get there. You don't want the hijackal to collude with the counselor to come back and say, oh, you've got a problem. And that's often what happens, too often what happens. And of course, there are wonderful counselors and therapists out there who get it right away. Now, when people come to see me, and I work by video conferencing, so people come from all over. And when people come as a couple to me, I'll work with them for 2 or 3 sessions and really get the lay of the land, and then start unpacking what's going on. And hijackals don't like to be seen, so you have to handle them carefully. But what will usually happen is, after 2 or 3 sessions, which is why I work in packages of sessions, the hijackal will get angry and go away. And then, of course, the partner has the rest of the sessions to work on themselves. And that can work out really, really well. But some of the things that go on when we have gaslighting are certainly done to create confusion and uncertainty. Hijackals like to keep you in uncertainty. They also like to keep you in ambiguity. And what that looks like is, you say, well, it'd be great to go for a picnic one day, maybe on the weekend. And the hijackal said, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And so you think you have a plan, and the weekend comes and you say to the hijackal, well, which day should we go on a picnic? And the hijackal says, I never agreed to go on a picnic. So be very, very careful for that kind of thing. Okay, Purple Belt says, that counseling scenario is exactly what happened to me too. Last minute, let's go, I've changed. Then thinking he can manipulate, and did for a while, then walked out after a few sessions. Yes, because the hijackal has to feel confident that they can dominate the sessions and they can be right, and someone will validate and agree with their rightness. And when they are not right and they're not validated, they get very angry and they walk out. So Purple Belt said he told me he'd go to anyone else but him. I filed for divorce because he was a good counselor. Yeah, he'd go to anyone else for him until you went to the next one and he didn't get validated. And then he'd go to anybody else but that one too, because he was just going to go through counselors the same way he would go through attorneys, which is to get one that agrees with him and is as difficult and nasty as his. And that's what they do when they look for an attorney too. Remember, a hijackal doesn't want counseling, they want validation. A hijackal doesn't want to change. A hijackal wants to be right and get you told that you have to change. So this is a whole situation when you get into the counseling, and this thing about creating confusion is a hallmark of a hijackal. I don't know how many of you on the call have participated in my home study program called Seeing the Cycles. But when you go to my website at forrelationshiphelp.com, you can click on the store and you'll see it. It's a really in-depth program to help you, all videos and worksheets and articles and things, to help you really see the cycles and to do the worksheet so you can find out what is really happening with me around these pieces. Am I recognizing them? When did I meet them? Do I have a blind spot for them? All kinds of questions, and they're all there for you. So just go to my website and click on store, and you'll see the things. Just like upcoming webinars and things are all there too. Anna says, I like this. Thank you. Good to remember. Hijackals want to be validated, not change. Yes. That is the entire purpose. A hijackal needs to be right and needs to be the one who is right. Needs to be validated that they are right. Needs to be validated for their point of view. Because hijackals are very frightened people. And I know that sounds a bit opposite to the way they come across often, but they're very frightened because they are shame-based people. And what their fear comes from is ever being shamed again. So they're very, very careful to put up the walls so that they won't be shamed again. And one of the ways that those walls exist is that they are putting out this energy that I'll catch you being wrong. I will be the first one to catch you doing things wrong and to say it's your fault and blame you so that you can't do that. And if by any chance you decide that you still want to blame me, then I am going to use that material, and anything that you tell me is true of me or I'm fearful is true of me, I'm going to say it's true of you. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about projection. Whether or not you're even in conversation with the hijackal when this begins, if a hijackal has a deep fear that they are a particular way, or that they come across a particular way, or that they have a problem that's particular, they are so concerned with preserving their image and not having any further shame that they project their fear that it's true for them onto you and say it's true of you. You get that? That's the projection. So this is why people ask me in my groups and in my membership program at optimizedcircles.com, they'll ask me that question. Sometimes I wonder, am I the narcissist? Am I the hijackal? It's because the hijackal has planted those seeds of doubt that it's you. They've projected what's true for them onto you, and you as a good person, a reflective person, a person who's interested in personal growth and making sure that you're doing the right thing, will take it on. And sometimes you take it on too much. And when you take it on too much, then you think, oh, it's my problem. Maybe I'm the hijackal. Maybe I'm the one in the relationship that's causing all this. Has anybody had that experience? Because I think it's quite common. Don't you find that hijackals are the people who say to you that you have the qualities they have? The things that irritate you about them, they say are your qualities, and it's your fault that they're behaving that way. They don't take ownership for anything. They don't take responsibility, and they're never accountable. But they're happy to gaslight you and create this confusion. So Bomber Girl says, yes, I think it is a big yes for most everybody. And this projection thing is really a big deal. Really a big deal, and you have to watch for it, because when you are a good person and you are self-reflective, And Anna says, oh, yes, many relationships, I thought it was me. Yes, we do think that. Oh, because people who are striving to be healthy will say, well, let me look at my part in this. What did I actually do to contribute to this? I will take responsibility. And then the hijackal kind of gets you on the run. They get you like, oh, yes, and you do this too, and you should look at that. And yeah, and this was your fault. And don't forget what you did 3 years ago. That's your fault too. And pretty soon you're just backing up against the wall. Am I terrible? Am I the hijackal? Am I the one with the problem? Am I creating all these problems? And that's how we begin to feel. And that's not good, because you've been gaslighted. You have been gaslighted. Someone else has created the definition of your reality, and they tell you what you think, feel, need, and want. So Purple Belt says, yes, I'm wondering now if my supposed ADHD, PTSD, and food addiction was the problem, not him. I know better, but I'm wondering. Yes. Well, the thing about a hijackal is they're going to tell you everything is your fault. Every last thing is your fault. No, I know a lot of people who have situations where they've been told they're attention deficit disorder or whatever, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It's a very popular diagnosis. It certainly was a super popular diagnosis because it just explained away a lot of things, and medication was available, and that was not always the best course. But if somebody can blame you for behaving in ways that they don't like and make you think that there's something terribly wrong with you because you behave that way, that's a hijackal specialty. That's what they're supremely good at. They love to have you on the run, and they will tell you that all kinds of things are wrong with you. Anna says, is this whole blame a conscious action for a hijackal, or do they really believe it's us? Well, they have to believe it's you, because they cannot even for a moment sustain the idea that it might be them. They're very fragile beings, even though they appear to be very dominant and very forthright and very secure and confident. They're very, very fragile. And so they have to believe it's someone else. It couldn't possibly be them. And are they conscious of this action? No, not so much. Because when they were young, they learned to be hypervigilant. They learned that I've got to find somebody to blame for everything. That's the only way that I can be safe. And so as their brain was developing, that's what they learned. And most people who have hijackal tendencies learned them when they were in their quite early childhood. And so they're not really conscious of these actions. All they're conscious of is their need to dominate, their need to be on top of things, their need to have power and control over other people to keep themselves safe. So they don't stay up at night. Only psychopaths stay up at night figuring out, how can I really make your life miserable? How can I really confuse you? How can I do this? And that's the difference between people with psychopathic tendencies and people with narcissistic or borderline or histrionic or sociopathic tendencies, that the psychopathic tendencies are hardwired in, where the other ones are based entirely or almost entirely on environment, particularly early environment. So they don't know this very consciously. It's just how they survive in the world, and it's what they know to survive. But they do really believe it's us, because they have to. They have to believe it's someone else's fault, always. So that's why a hijackal is always going to blame you for everything. You know, I live in San Diego, and on Saturday there was a strawberry festival, and I was planning to go to it, but it poured rain all day. I kind of had a chuckle because I'd said something to a client just a couple of days before. Well, a hijackal will blame you for everything, including the weather. I thought, yeah, of all the times that it's sunny in San Diego, on the very day of the Strawberry Festival, it's pouring with rain. I wonder if there's a hijackal somewhere going, well, somebody had it out for the strawberry growers, and look at that, it's the rain, it's the weatherman's fault or whatever. Oh, Anna, you're welcome. She said, thank you very much. It's fascinating how it works for them. Oh, there's so many pieces to the puzzle of how it works for them. And Purple Belt said, well, for me, as soon as he moved out, I stopped taking the ADHD meds and was somehow fine. Yes, I truly believe that. I used to be principal of a school for at-risk teenagers. And when I went to this school, it was in a complete mess. The kids that went there would only stay 2 or 3 months, and then they'd go off, and nobody was learning anything and nobody was getting anywhere. And when I started turning it around, there was all violence. There was smoking. There was swearing. There was everything going on. It was horrible. And when I started to turn it around and give them a sense of belonging, give them a sense of pride, and work with the parents, I found that so many of them had been diagnosed as ADHD. And then I had parent groups so we could talk about it. And then the parents started proudly telling me that they were ADHD too, and they were taking medication. And pretty much what was going on, except for a few people who really were deeply troubled by the inability to attend to things for more than a fleeting second, most of them were simply passing the buck. They were enjoying the medication, and the reason, oh, well, this is why nothing can happen. This is why my kid is a mess. And once we got to the bottom of it, and we started getting more parenting tactics that worked well for the parents and the kids and things, we got it turned around. But there was a real epidemic at that time of medications for ADHD. And everybody was just saying, oh, well, that's why it is. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't focus. I can't be successful. And therefore, neither can my children. Now, I'm not saying that ADHD is not a real thing. It definitely is. But it was very trendy, and it was very much passing the buck for having to take responsibility for how people dealt with things and how they felt and what they did. And a hijackal can completely gaslight you into thinking that you can't pay attention and you don't follow and you don't even remember what you did yesterday. And that's all gaslighting. So, another way that they gaslight you is they tell you that everybody else is a liar. Everybody's lying to you. There's nobody you can believe. And they'll even twist things like that. So, well, you can't trust anybody. Everybody lies to you. You just have to rely on me because I'll tell you the truth because everybody else is lying to you. Has anybody had that experience? That you can trust me, the hijackal, because I'm here for you. But everybody else is lying to you and you can't trust them. Now there's a big gaslighting piece, right? That's huge. And so when we begin to see gaslighting for what it is, you can see that it's far more pervasive than you might have thought. Gaslighting, of course, we came from that term from that 1940s movie where, there were just things happening in the house and the woman would say it happened and the man would say, oh, no, it didn't, dear. You've got a problem. So Anna says, is it similar to no one will ever love you as much as me? Absolutely. Great insight. Yes. No one will ever love you as much. You can't trust anyone as much as you can trust me. I will always have your back. Well, the reason I'm so hard on you is because I care about you so much. That's one of the ways that parents gaslight children. Someone asked me in the membership site, where I told you at optimizedcircles.com, my membership site, they asked me, how are children gaslighted? And I said, oh, that's very simple. The parent just tells them how they think and how they feel and what they want and what they don't want. The parent defines the child's reality instead of inquiring and believing and helping the child figure it out. The parent constantly tells the child how they feel. And so the child comes to second guess themselves and believe the parent. And so that naturally transfers into new relationships that the child might be in at some point as they get older, that other people know better than I do about what's good for me. Other people make better decisions. I need to depend and codepend on other people. Purple Belt says, mine told me 5 other people or whatever agree with him or said I was being odd. Yes, because you're different, dear. You know, that's the condescending nature of hijackals sometimes. If they're not yelling at you, they're being condescending. That, oh, I know you have a problem. You know, if only you weren't like this, you wouldn't have these problems. But you are like that. And so now we have to treat you differently, or we have to walk on eggshells around you. Meanwhile, it's them that need the eggshell walking, but they are gaslighting you. And this is tough stuff. So take a big breath right now and just let it go. Think about the people who have perhaps gaslit you. Okay, did any of them leave a lasting impression that maybe now you see that even the way they told you you are, or the way you come across, or who you really are, is not the truth? And that you know the truth, that you are actually accurate about who you are and what you like and what's good for you, and how you remember things was accurate, even though they tried to tell you it wasn't. You know, I remember my mother, I've said this on other broadcasts, one of my mother's favorite things was to say, it's a good thing you're smart, young lady, because you're fat and ugly. Well, I may be delusional, but I haven't found fat and ugly to be anything I can see in photographs of my life. And yet that's what she said. Why? Because she gained a lot of weight, and that's how she probably felt about herself. But she insisted that we wore the same size. So she tried to gaslight me. You know, my mother was a size 20, I was a size 12, and she told me that we wore the same size. Come on now. I mean, there's a tag in my clothing and there's a tag in your clothing, and they don't say the same number, but she swore blind that we were the same size. What an obvious attempt at gaslighting. Very misconstrued, pretty obvious, and very clearly able to be disproved, but she wasn't having any of it. Not at all. We were the same size. It's the way it went, you know? So this gaslighting business is something we really have to think about. So, you know, going back to the sneaky gaslighting that caused me to choose tonight's topic, this person who listened to my broadcasts and then went back to his partner and said that I said, because I'd said such and such on the video, I had said that, so therefore his partner was a hijackal. And he tried to use me to prove to her that she had a problem that he had. Sneaky gaslighting. Take an authority, misconstrue the words, use it as proof for their misguided purposes. Very, very sad. Very erroneous, too. So make sure that you ask your questions now, because we've got 20 minutes left. And if you have a question about any of this or about anything, now is the time to ask it, because I've said pretty much all I have to say about gaslighting that you need to know, or that I think you need to know. And if you have questions about it, ask them now. Or if you have questions about anything about relationships with hijackals, I'm happy to answer. And as you're thinking about that or writing it in the chat, let me just remind you that you are so welcome to become a member over at optimizedcircles.com. It's completely off social media. And why did I do that? Well, too many times if you have a hijackal in your life and you're trying to figure it all out, they will make fake profiles on Facebook, and then they will join groups where they can watch what you're up to. So I didn't want that to be possible. So I paid for the software and the development of having the membership site on my site, safely off social media. There are 3 levels over there. So you can join the support circle, which gets you into all the discussions, and there are a few videos there, and there's access to about 150 frequently asked questions. You can join at the learning level, which adds all of that, and both levels get my 21 Steps to Empowered Emotional Savvy Home Study Program. At the second level, you also get my monthly live webinar and access to other webinars. And at the Growth Circle level, you get all that plus 2 group Ask Me Anything calls a month, where you can sign up and come on a Zoom call, and I will answer your questions personally. So there's a lot there for you, and if that interests you, go to optimizedcircles.com. And I hope you've explored my podcasts, because I do my best to cover very specific, very refined and small pieces in the podcast that can help you. So wherever you like to get podcasts, just put in my name and you'll find my podcasts. And that way you can listen. There are hundreds of episodes now, so that'll keep you busy for a moment or two. And this gaslighting business, very important to get very, very clear about, because it could have been going on for a long time. When you were a young child, maybe there was a repeated thing, like there was for me. It's a good thing you're smart because you're fat and ugly. That was gaslighting. It had nothing to do with me. Believe me, I went back and looked at the photographs of my entire life. Yeah, could I have lost a few pounds? Yeah, occasionally that was true. But fat and ugly? No, I don't think so. But perhaps my mother felt that way about herself, so therefore she had to project that on me. Maybe something like that happened to you. Maybe you were continuously told you were a certain way. And now after hearing what we talked about today, you go back and say, was I really? Was there any evidence in reality that that was true of me? Or was that a fear that my mother or father had that they projected onto me and suggested that I was who they were afraid they were? It's very tricky, but it's something that happens far too frequently. So this whole idea of gaslighting is really worth exploring. I have a section on it in the Seeing the Cycles home study program. I made a video about it and all, so you look at that. So Anna says, how do I not get triggered when being gaslighted? Ooh, good question, Anna. So how do we not get triggered, period? Well, first of all, we have to be able to step back from the person that we're concerned is triggering us or emotionally abusing us, which gaslighting is. We have to be able to step back from it. So use your breath, first of all. Step back and get some distance. Make sure that you are separate from that person, that you were not there saying, whatever, I'm listening, I'm into that. And then start to ask yourself the question, is this true of me? And does what I think match what this person is saying? And if what I think about myself does not match what that person is saying, start to believe yourself. You don't have to make the other person wrong. It's never a good idea to poke a hijackal. You know that. Everybody who's listening knows that. It is not a good idea to poke a hijackal. Never call them a hijackal. Never call them a narcissist. Never call them out on what it is that they're doing. Notice it, observe it, make a decision about whether or not you want that in your life, and then take action. Move away from it. Set boundaries. Do not bother calling it out. Do not bother giving it a name. You know, when I wrote Kaizen for Couples, the most powerful communication tool that I can ever give you, I wrote about in that book. It's called the Personal Weather Report. Learn to give an accurate personal weather report where you know that you have the ability to be assertive. And my definition of assertion is this, that you know you have the right to take up space and draw a breath. And because you have that right, you also have the right to say what you think, feel, need, and want, as long as you do not mention any other human by name or pronoun. And you speak only of yourself. And it's a very, very important tool to have highly honed when you're dealing with hijackals, so that when the hijackal says something about you, you can calibrate it within yourself. You do not have to have the hijackal's approval or take on what it is that they say. So Anna said, how do I not get triggered when being gaslit? Well, first of all, you have to catch that right in the bud when you start to lean in, when you start to get angry, when you start to feel irritated. And then you have to breathe yourself down and step back and go, no. What they're doing is not about me. It's about them. It's about them, not about me. That's their stuff, not my stuff. Step back into your own space. That's very, very important. I hope that helps, Anna. Let me know if you have another question. And Kristen says, my spouse says it's not about me. I'm keeping my mouth shut so I don't disappoint you. Moo. I'm letting you pick so I don't pick the wrong thing. Then I feel bad, and really he is making it about him. Of course he is. What you're describing there, Kristen, is a covert action. Now let me talk about covert hijackals for a minute. Overt hijackals are the ones that are just blatant, out there. You can see it clearly. Much sneakier are the covert ones. These are the ones that, well, I don't want to hurt you, or nobody ever cares what I think. No one ever wants to do what I want to do. Nobody ever lets me really have my interests. I'm just going to step back and let it all happen. When people do that repeatedly, and these are some of the things that Kristen's saying, you know, her spouse says, it's not about me. I'm keeping my mouth shut so I don't disappoint you. And you just feel the ick in that. I'm letting you pick so I don't pick the wrong thing, so I can't possibly be wrong. You know, poor humble me. It's a false humility. But that's what we find in covert hijackals. They're hiding underneath their humility and their feelings of I'm not, you know, pretending to not feel good enough and not understood and all of that. So Kristen went on to say, I'm left feeling like I shouldn't pick the activity or voice my feelings because he's clearly unhappy. He's clearly unhappy because he chooses to be unhappy. You're not making him unhappy. I hope you get that. I hope you get that right down to your toes. When somebody is saying all those things that they're saying there, Kristen, that person is setting it up. They're setting it up so that you'll go, oh, poor you, and you'll lean in and you'll try to do more and more and make them happy and pick up the pieces and everything. And then they have power over you because all you're trying to do is please them. You're trying to make them feel better. You're trying to shore up their self-esteem when there's nothing wrong with their self-esteem at all. They're actually sitting there going, okay, I got her number. I just make her feel sorry for me. And yes, I can't say that it's going on with your husband with with any clarity. I'm talking in general terms about hijackals happen, not your husband, but what you're asking there. Of course, then you're left like, oh, am I the bad person? Am I the person who's destroying this? Am I the person who is making him unhappy? No. Nobody is responsible for our happiness except ourselves. Nobody can make you unhappy. Happiness is an inside job. You decide to be happy. You behave happy. And I know it sounds simplistic, and we could do another show on that, but don't let anybody think you're making them unhappy. It's not your job to make them happy, and you certainly don't make them unhappy. Anna says, yes, it helps very much. Thank you. I'm also being very conscious now of only speaking of me and not the other person. Great. When you really get into that personal weather report, and get a copy of Kaizen for Couples. It's at Amazon. Everybody, don't be fooled by the term couples. It's all about having a great relationship with any human, including yourself. And you can buy at Amazon. You can buy the downloadable one. You can buy the Kindle one. You can buy the hard copy one. But get that tool. Practice that tool, because it takes a lot more than you think. It's not as simple as you think. Oh, Christine. Hi, Christine. I was married to an evil covert. Okay. Always played the victim and loved giving the silent treatment. Ah, the silent treatment. How nasty. The silent treatment is a passive-aggressive move for attention. And hijackals use it so frequently. I simply won't talk to you. I won't look at you. I won't give you attention because I'm not getting what I want. And so I'm going to freeze you out. And I used to do a lot of coursework locally here, and I had someone in a class ask me one day, how long is it usual for a partner to give you the silent treatment? It was a fellow. And I said, well, how long does your wife give you the silent treatment? And he said, about 6 weeks at a time. The silent treatment is a way that people just use shutdown in order to coerce you into coaching them into wanting to communicate with you. It's nasty. When people give you the silent treatment, just be happy for the silence. Can you do that? Just be happy for the silence. Oh, great. I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to engage with it. And if you think the person is a hijackal, be doubly happy for the silence. Oh, Purple Belt said, Christine, my covert used silent treatment all the time, once for 3 months. Wow. You topped the bill then. 3 months. That's nasty. And Kristen says it's exhausting. It is. Thank you for the reassurance. I need that sometimes to remind me. Yes, we all do. It's unnatural, this whole hijackal thing, you know? And yet we may have been raised to find it acceptable, or at least to not question it. And if we don't question it, then we'll start deeply questioning ourselves, way too deeply, and we'll take too much on ourselves. And when we do that, we start eroding ourselves, and we have a hijackal eroding us too. So we've got two people being very hard on us, and we don't deserve that. There is just not okay. Christine said, my ex's average time period was 45 days of the silent treatment. Wow. And then what happened, Christine? Did you cave, or did he give it up and want something? Or what happened at the end of 45 days? Because as I say, once you can unhook, when somebody wants to give you the silent treatment, all you can go is, oh, what a blessing. It's quiet. I don't have to deal with any of that. But if you're still hooked, you know, really hooked, and, oh, this is terrible. He or she is not talking to me. What do I need to do? What did I do? I'm a terrible person. You get all into that mindset. They got you just where they want you. Purple Belt said, wow, so hard. Yes, it's punishing. It's very, very difficult. Anna said, gosh, those are so painful. I remember how heartbreaking the silent treatments felt. Well, it does, because you want to be in communication. You want to be in relationship. That's why you're there. And then the person takes control of it by saying, well, I refuse to talk to you till you do it my way. And then you cave because you have a desire to be in relationship with that person. Oh, I love that, Christine. She said, I use the time for peace. Yeah, I belong to a lot of groups on Facebook just to be able to give a little helping hand here and there. And people often say, oh, he or she's not talking to me right now. Oh, it's terrible. What should I do? And I say, enjoy the peace. So Christine already learned to do that. That's great. And Kristen said, it's so hurtful when they won't even look you in the eyes. So sorry, guys. Yeah. But they know that. That's the whole purpose they're doing it. They want to punish you for not being who they want you to be, or for not allowing them to have power over you or to have control over you. That's their end game. That's all they want, and they can never get enough of it. So if you give them some power over you, they'll just want more power. And that same thing happens when you go to court. Let me just put a word in for that. You go to court, you think you have a settlement. They go off, maybe they have some new supply, they have some fun, the supply falls off, they come back and they take you to court again because they just won't let it go. They need power. Purple Belt said, happiness. Mine frequently said his counselor said I could never make him happy. Took me a while to realize that was an odd but true statement. Well, your hijackal was probably rewording it, giving you the suggestion that it was your job to make you happy, and the counselor was saying that you weren't up to the job. That's what the hijackal wanted you to think. But the therapist was probably saying, not your job to make him happy. But, of course, it got twisted because everything gets twisted with a hijackal. I'm sure you've all recognized that. So very, very important. So I'm so glad you joined me tonight. Remember to listen to the podcast. Just go put my name in wherever you like to get podcasts. Subscribe now while you're here and hit the little bell button so you'll get a notification just before we start each week for our live stream on Help for Toxic Relationships. Again, I really invite you to come on over and be a member at optimizecircles.com. We're getting members all the time, and when we reach 40 members, the pricing is going to change dramatically. So you want to get in there right now. Every level you get to try the first month for $5. So it's worth it. We have a webinar coming up this Wednesday on how to learn to trust again, and members of the Learning Circle get that. So if you're interested in that, and I'm sorry if you're listening to the replay because you'll probably be too late, but go over and join for $5 so you can be part and register for Wednesday's webinar. And there are always things there. Anna says, this was great. Thank you very much. Nice to connect with everyone. And I feel just the same way. I'm so glad that you were here. It's great to connect with you, and I hope you create value from what you learned here. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor, and I am always here on Monday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And when you're a member at optimizecircles.com, or when you're part of my Facebook page, Relationship Help Doctor, I always put up the upcoming topics there. So go to facebook.com/Relationship Help Doctor and like my page, and you will also see these things there. So until we meet again next week, or I have a chance to talk with you personally between now and then, take good care. And treat yourself very well. Stand up, have good boundaries, because you deserve it and you matter. Bye-bye for now.